Awesome. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Sorry that it's a little behind schedule here. I ran to a former home buyer, a homeowner. Actually, she's a current homeowner, but she works here at the Stark office. So had to catch up a little bit. But anyway, I'm here joined with Kayleigh Cleary of Stark Homes. We're at the Stark office. Actually, I did my Mastery Academy in this room with David Stark, which is awesome. So we found a little spot. So Kayleigh, and I'll let her tell her story. She's been with Stark Homes for about 6 years. Yep. We started in the business about the same time. And today she's got a few juicy stories to share. She probably thinks that they're not that juicy, but I think they're awesome. As someone who only sells new homes, I don't get all these cool stories. Anyway, so Kayleigh,
I hope they're entertaining.
Yeah. So Kayleigh, first tell us a little about yourself, and then let's get into it.
All right. Well, I'm Kayleigh, and I've been doing this, like you said, for about 6 years. Before that, I was in healthcare. I was in multiple capacities. I was an EMT, I was an ER tech, and then graduated nursing school and did that for a few years until I realized it was way more fun to sell houses. That's a very short story of a much longer story.
Yeah, there's much more. Yeah, that takes a lot more coffee or a lot more wine or one or the other. Yeah.
More time in general. Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, let's just jump into it.
Okay.
So I came about this idea talking with Erin Garnett, and she did my first one last week, and she had some good stories. So Kayleigh has agreed to do this as well, because I think that she probably has some good stories. So what's the first one you have for us?
Let's see, which one do I start with? Let's see, there was, I was telling you before, I remember showing this old farmhouse in Stoughton. And it was kind of a creepy house in general. And then we made our way to this attic, and it wasn't really like a second story where there was a fixed staircase, but you could just tell it was kind of like that Alice in Wonderland, really tiny finished space. And it wasn't very well lit. And you get to the top.
It was like a farmhouse, like
it was,
an old farmhouse.
Yeah. The walls and the stairwell were wallpapered with the pages of Pet Sematary. So as the Stephen King novel. So it was, I don't know if this was like some high schoolers like cool hangout place, but that was kind of like it was already probably not going to be the one for them, but in the attic we were all like, this isn't the one. So
was it like neatly done, or was it just like thrown up there?
No, I mean, I think it was old. I think at one point it may have been neatly done, but there were a lot. I mean, it was kind of creepy. It was like some of them were peeling, they were yellowed. It was old. So
so did it look like they just stuck them up there, or did they actually like cover it with like a varnish or something?
I don't know. I'm not sure. It might have been done with like a wallpaper glue, or like they painted over it with some sort of sealer. But I don't think it was like, it wasn't intended to be wallpaper. It was like they ripped the pages out of the book.
I was just thinking, I wonder if there's a way you could make that actually look cool.
Oh, like, I'm sure
like
you could do
pages
that.
Of Sports Illustrated covers or something, if you're a sports head, or
you could do you could do like a library with like, I don't know, Dickens novels or something.
Yeah, right.
It could
so if
be
you
done
found a
very
bunch
cool.
of old ones that were you like didn't feel bad about ripping apart a book, like you could do that.
You could.
But Pet Sematary, that's already creepy.
I remember watching that in like 5th grade. I'm still scared of under my bed because of that little creepy kid. So it's not one of my fonder memories. It's one of the first horror movies I've ever watched, and I can't do horror.
Yeah.
That was scary enough for me
in
in this attic.
That either.
So I don't like being scared.
All right, well, that's a good start.
Let's see. And actually, I just like flipping gears as far as creepy basements. I just showed a house. There was like this wired off like cage. But it wasn't like a cage. It was like a whole section of the basement was just like caged off. And it like had a little door, and it looked like it would be like a storage area, but I don't know why in a single family house you would need like a locked cage.
Like a gate.
Like it was like a gate type door with like fence. 2 bar locks on it. So it wasn't like padlocked. It was just like, all me and my buyers were both like, did they just like children in this like cage? Did they put like pets in this cage? Like there's no way out from the inside. And it was super creepy.
There's like a book in there.
Yeah, no, there was
pillow.
nothing, and there wasn't like any windows, so there was no. We couldn't figure out what this is for. I didn't ask the sellers. I kind of wanted to, but
yeah, it wasn't in the description. Like other rooms.
Nope, it wasn't.
Additional rooms.
Nope. There wasn't additional storage.
6x6. Additional room, 6x6 caged space.
Yeah, no, that was just a fun little surprise. I don't know if I've mentioned this one to you. I showed, actually my buyers bought this house. I thought this might have made them back out. We were doing a home inspection on a house in New Glarus. If they were watching this, they'll know who that I'm talking about here. The inspector is looking in a crawl space in the attic, and he discovers what appears to be a child's coffin in the attic. And like our hearts are pounding. She was very upset. She's like, if anyone's died in this house, I can't buy this house. Like if that's a coffin, I can't do this. So I remember I called the list agent, no answer. And like, she's like, we have to find out what's going on. So eventually like our inspector made his way in there. He pulled it out, and it ended up being like a viola case because it was a little bit bigger than a violin. And seriously, and it had like the pointy top and sides. It was made to look like a coffin, but inside it was a violin case. There was no instrument in it. So I don't know what it ever.
Okay. So let's go back on that one. If that was,
I think they would have backed out.
Well, let's say that there wasn't a buyer yet. If that was, and you were the listing agent and you found out about that, do you have to report that?
Oh,
you have to like put that in there?
Not that coffin found in attic. No. I mean, if somebody were to come to me and say, hey, it would be
coffin with, what if it was like an actual coffin? Just wondering, like
if it were an actual coffin and there was no body inside?
No, like it was an actual coffin for a body that was, it's like open it up and there's like a skeleton in there.
Oh my God.
I'm just saying, like, is that something, from a real estate standpoint, is that something you have to like put in there? Like you have to let the seller, the buyers know, the potential buyers that
so that falls under more of a category of I have to tell the truth. So if somebody were to come to me and say, like, if anyone's ever died or been buried in the attic in this house, that would be considered a defect to me. I would not buy this house. And I knew about it. I couldn't go, yep, no.
Right, but if you didn't, but if you knew about it and they didn't ask you.
I wouldn't have to disclose it.
Ew.
I know. Now, I think if you get into like, if it were like a higher profile, like something happened that like everybody knew what happened in that house. I mean,
well, then you wouldn't.
It
would be out there already.
Yeah. So, no, I mean, I would probably be more forthcoming with something like that.
Educational. This is not just stories. This is educational for realtors out there and sellers as well.
Yeah. So that was one of the creepiest things we've ever encountered. I remember my buyer being very upset, and I was too. We thought it was a coffin. I had two summers ago when everybody in Dane County flooded. I had a couple that were selling their house. They were getting a divorce. They were both moved out. They weren't speaking to each other. And final walkthrough 2 days before the house, there was about 2 inches of water in the basement. And I just got a text from the buyer's agent doing their final walkthrough with like 27 pictures. And I'm seeing these like texts coming in, and I'm like, uh-oh. So I'm like looking at the pictures like, uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Of all the people that this could possibly happen.
We need to be done with this.
It's 2 days before closing. They're both moved out. She was actually out of town at a conference. So that was, I don't know, evening-ish so I was there at 10:30 that night. I found a contractor who came over like after work. I met him at 10:30, got him into the basement. We took pictures. He took measurements. Was able to put a rough bid together the next day, including like what it would cost for him to just come in and cut all the drywall out, the carpet out. I think my seller came back and they pulled out all the carpet because the carpet was all wet.
Yeah.
So they did that. But we ended up just getting it cleaned up and the drywall cut out before closing, just so it could be not like sitting with physical water stuck in the carpet. And then we escrowed funds for fixing it post-close for him to come back and fix the drywall, and they gave him a credit for new flooring. So it ended up working out, but I can't think of too many deals that have ever made me cry. I cried because you're just like 10 o'clock at night. Yeah. What do I do? I've got sellers that won't speak to each other. I've got 2 inches of water in the basement. We're supposed to be closing in 2 days. Oh. What do you even do?
Yeah.
So like,
right, because the buyers could have been like, we're out.
Yeah.
We're walking away.
Yeah. I mean, the sellers were obligated to return the property, because property damage.
Sure.
They were required to restore the property to the way it was when they wrote the offer, and the buyers didn't want to back out. They're like, no, we want this house and we want it fixed.
Right. And with as much water as there was, it wasn't a defect in the home that caused that water, right? Like there was so much water everywhere that no house, no house would have been immune to that if it was in that path.
Right. And the worst part about it was that they had been moved out for, I don't think too long, maybe like a couple of weeks at that point, but they had some like neighbor kid come and mow their lawn, and the gutter had like the bendy downspout. So they had taken that out of the lawn and like tossed it up into the rock bed on the backside of the house to mow the lawn, and he never
temporarily
put it back.
Yeah.
So not only did the house get 16 inches of water, all of the gutters were draining right back into that window well. So it may have still leaked, but not to the extent it did had that not happened. Wow. So it was a super huge bummer. I mean, like I obviously felt so terrible for them, but like, I mean, what are you going to do about an act of nature?
Right. Yeah, moral of the story is everything worked out. So while you may have shed a tear or a lot of them, everything worked out in the end. It was just that something you had to work through, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it all does, because it all has to, like things have to work out, because you can't just like sit on your hands forever and not make decisions. You have to move forward and hope you're making the best decisions.
First, you got to go try all these up. Right. And then go, all right, now what do I have to do? It
was the single most stressful transaction I've ever done. It was really tricky, and they were friends of mine on top of it. So like in hindsight, maybe it would have been a better referral for somebody else to not get involved in my friend's drama. I was very much just like, I'm here to, sell the house, not my circus, not my monkeys.
Yeah. Right.
You're not going to badmouth him. She's not going to badmouth you. And we're not going to talk.
Going to take care of this.
It's totally, yeah. And then when
business transaction, let's get it done.
Yep. Until the basement leaks. And then it was just,
ouch.
Yeah. So weather is, one of those things you can't really control. Like the day I rear-ended a BMW on the way to a showing on the Beltline.
Yeah.
Because it was pouring rain, and
I'm sure you weren't like really early, so you're like, oh, I've got all kinds of time to have an accident.
Totally. I mean, it was like we're going like 4 miles an hour. I was like almost at a stop, and I tapped them. And so we're like out in the pouring rain, and she's like, oh, there's no damage, no big deal. And we all moved on. And then like a couple days later, I actually did. And we exchanged numbers anyway.
I've got whiplash.
Yeah. Well, actually, she's like, we found a crack in my bumper, and you'd be amazed how expensive a BMW's bumper is. It was like well over $1,000. And I'm like, really?
I'm pretty sure it's plastic.
I know.
It's a plastic bumper.
I know. But that's why we have insurance.
And
right?
She didn't see it. I mean, she didn't see it before that.
I know. So
okay.
That was.
But I get it. Like sometimes that happens.
So weather dependent horror stories.
Even though it's probably her front bumper.
No, it was her rear. It was her rear bumper. So no, I don't think she was lying to me. Too many rules when your husband's a cop. So
yeah, right.
Yeah, you kind of have to be a rule follower.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I would have done
well,
that.
Good. You got anything else? Anything else that can come up to?
That's all I've been able to come up with, racking my brain for the last few days trying to think of good stories for you.
Okay.
Now, if you were asking about my career when I was in the emergency room,
let's tell one. Let's go. Let's tell one. Tell one from the emergency room. I know this. This is not real estate related, but
I remember a lady had her nose bit off by her corgi. I remember like what room she was in, and she said she had her dog sitting on her lap, and she had 2 little lap dogs. It was a corgi, and I don't remember what the other one was, but the other dog was trying to get up on her lap, and the 2 of them were kind of like scuffling. And so she's separating the 2 dogs, and the one leaned up and bit her nose off. She like this little piece of skin on the verge of her nose was like hanging down like this, and you could see like a skeleton, like the 2 holes into her face.
And then did she like have it in a jar or something?
She didn't have the whole nose, like, but they did have like piece of it. I don't know what they ever did. I'm assuming what they probably had to do was create a prosthetic nose because it was like OFF off.
Oh my gosh.
It was one of the craziest things.
They're like,
I've
we're
seen.
going to take a piece from here and stick it on your nose.
It would have involved probably some
major
significant
plastic surgery.
Yeah.
Okay,
and a prosthetic
that's a
nose.
good one.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm bound by like the same HIPAA stories, but that was like
You're not naming any stories or any names.
way many years
Yeah,
ago. So
yeah.
I remember that. Like
course.
whenever anyone asks me about
Of
your
course, if
stories.
she's watching this, she knows who she is.
Sure. Yeah.
That
And I'm
does-
sure most people probably around her
No.
know that she had
Yeah.
her nose bit off.
And you just told the story.
I did.
It's all
That
right.
was a cool one. And that was
Yeah.
one where like, I swear like half the doctors in the hospital were like coming to like, can I take a picture of this
I
for
see
educational
this.
purposes? Like, I remember like half the doctors in our ER were coming and taking like their iPhones.
Like,
and
this
taking
is so cool.
Pictures of this lady.
Let me see your nose.
Oh God, that
And
poor
she's
woman.
miserable. Yeah.
Mhm.
She's like,
Oh,
I
I'm
said my
sure.
nose bit off and you want
She
to
was
take
actually
pictures of it.
surprisingly calm. Like, I think she was probably in a lot of shock, but she
Yeah.
was surprisingly calm.
Wow.
Yep.
I kind of need to find her now. See what she looks like
I
today.
don't even know how you'd even find it. Like Google lady with nose bit off, Madison.
Yeah. You can find anything with Google.
I wish I could even remember what ambulance, like to even remember who brought her in, like where she was from. But I
All
don't know.
right. I'm going to find her.
Hopefully that was a good
Someone
story
doesn't
to round
find
it
her
out.
first. Awesome. Kayleigh, thanks so
You're
much.
welcome.
And thanks everyone for joining us. And hopefully you found this entertaining and look forward to doing another one in the future. So thanks, St. Kayleigh. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
See ya.